In this video, you'll find that everything you've ever known about happiness has been wrong this whole time, and yes, negative thinking really did change my life. In fact, I've spent the past 1 year implementing this exact framework, with lessons 2 and 3 being my absolute favorite. Of course, I'll show you everything that happened along the way, and this was all inspired by the Antidote by Oliver Burkeman. Hi, I'm Liz. I love reading awesome books, experimenting with the stuff that I learn in the books I read, and then posting the results on this YouTube channel. Now, the first humongous takeaway is by far the most important and underlies everything else in this video, so do not skip past it. If I were to tell you not to think of a white bear for the next 1 minute, do you think you can succeed? Go ahead, just pause this video and try it out. Well, Daniel Wagner, a professor of psychology at Harvard University, issued this exact challenge to American students while asking them to speak their thoughts aloud. Don't think about a white bear. Okay, what was I thinking about before? Flowers, fingernails? Every time I want to not think about a white bear, it makes me want to think about it more. Wagner says what's happening here is metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. So when you try not to think about a white bear, you may have success at first by forcing other thoughts into your mind. However, sooner or later, a metacognitive monitoring process will start, scanning your mind for evidence of whether you are succeeding or failing at this task of not thinking about the white bear. This very monitoring process causes you to think about the white bear, and especially when you're stressed or trying too hard, metacognition will then jump into the forefront of your consciousness, and now all you'll be able to think about are white bears and how badly you're failing at not thinking about white bears. Pause the video here and try the white bear experiment for 1 minute. I guarantee that all 4 of these steps will pop into your mind. When I did it myself, I found it incredible to see, so I highly recommend it. Now, what if we erase everything here and apply it to the concept of happiness instead? Let's say right now you're unhappy. What most self-help books will tell you is to think positive thoughts. Don't think negative thoughts, right? So you try not to think negative thoughts and maybe you succeed for a little bit. However, we learned that the monitoring process will kick in here. It'll constantly scan your mind for negative thoughts because there's no other way for the mind to gauge its success or failure at this, and it is this very scanning that will draw attention to any negative thoughts that you have in your mind. Now, you might find yourself getting upset at how badly you're failing and not thinking negative thoughts. And worse still, this failure becomes an extra reason for you to feel unhappy at yourself, which makes your unhappiness problem even worse than before. The irony of it all. Now, you can finally see why our constant effort to get rid of any unhappiness in our lives actually causes more unhappiness. And this is why we should follow instead the negative path to happiness. It's illogical, but bear with me because everyone else overlooks this, but I don't want you to make the same mistake. Something along the lines of think positive thoughts is this thing called positive visualization. If you've not heard of it, it's basically you visualizing things going well in your life, like making 6 figures a year, having a wonderful, loving relationship and family, and being in the best physical condition of your life. Stuff like that. Unfortunately, there are many different problems with this approach, as Oliver explains. Over the last few years, psychologist Gabrielle Oettingen performed a series of experiments where subjects who were encouraged to think about how they were going to have a particularly high-achieving week at work ended up achieving less than those who were invited to reflect on the coming week, but given no guidelines on how to do so. Another ingenious experiment by Oettingen involved mildly dehydrated participants, the ones who were told to positively visualize drinking a refreshing icy glass of water. They were found to have become more relaxed and less motivated to quench their thirst. I found this to be shockingly true for me as well, and here's what happened. I had been wanting to start this YouTube channel for many months now. At the beginning of this year, I had done nothing but positively visualize my success. In my mind, my channel would blow up right out of the gate and I would get so many views. I spent so much time and energy visualizing that it took me not 1, not 2, but a whole 6 months to film my first video and get it up on YouTube. My brain had confused visualizing success with actually achieving it, and my motivation to get what I wanted went way down. This is the first huge pitfall for me. And then when I finally released my first video, it got 0 views. The next few videos got single to sometimes double-digit views, and around the 10th video mark, nothing really improved, and I remember one day I felt like completely wrecked. Here's my journal entry from that day. I can't believe how little of a return I've gotten from all the time and money I put into these videos. I'm so discouraged, I feel like I can cry. This is nothing at all like what I had visualized. I honestly feel closer to giving up than ever before. This was the second huge problem that I discovered with positive visualization. When reality didn't turn out like I had visualized, it completely threw me off. I was totally unprepared for the massive amount of disappointment I had felt, so much so that I kind of almost gave up on my dream. Now, instead, I ask myself, what is the worst case scenario that could realistically happen if I continue with this YouTube channel? If I produce 100 videos, I would be out of pocket 20 grand, and I also would have wasted a full 308-hour days of my life. That's obviously not great, but it's a price I'm willing to pay for chasing my dream of reading and writing for a living. And now, even when I have bad videos, I continue to ask myself, is the worst case scenario a price I'm willing to pay? The answer has always been yes, so I keep going. Positive visualization slapped me in the face when I least expected it. That's why now I'm always asking myself, is the worst case scenario a price I am willing to pay? And it's been working so much better for me. Now that you understand how toxic positivity can be from these two lessons, I'm going to give you 3 quick steps to deal with possible failures in life, financial troubles, and last but not least, death at the end of our lives. Failure is freaking scary, I get it, but this one simple mindset shift that Oliver talks about can change your entire outlook. So each of us can be placed somewhere on a continuum. Those with a fixed theory mindset assume that ability is innate, whereas those with an incremental theory mindset believes that ability evolves through challenges and hard work. If you, yes, you watching this video right now, if you struggle whenever you experience failure, it's likely that you're near the fixed end of this continuum. You probably approach challenges as occasions on which you are meant to show what your innate abilities are capable of. So if you happen to fail, to you, it's a sign that you tried to show how good you were, but you didn't measure up. Therefore, you as a person are a failure. On the other hand, incremental theory people are the opposite, because they think of abilities as emerging or improving through the tackling of challenges. Challenges for them are therefore an opportunity to learn, and the experience of a failure is evidence that they are pushing at their limits of their current abilities. Every failure allows them to extend their current limit, and this allows for incremental improvements over the long run, hence the name incremental theory. Thankfully, you can always change your fixed mindset to a more incremental one over time. What has helped me change my fixed mindset to an incremental one is this. For anything you're doing in life, whether it's science experiments, starting your own business, studying to be a doctor or lawyer or something, imagine it to be a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. For myself, this puzzle represents me learning YouTube. So previously, I had a fixed mindset. I put out one video at a time, and with each video that failed, I took it personally. Like, damn, I put in so much effort into that, it failed, so therefore, I'm a failure. When viewed as a huge puzzle, that's just crazy tall, right? But now with this analogy in mind, I'll simply be like, okay, this didn't work. Let me try something else instead. I try and try again until bam, something clicks. This expands my present abilities by reducing the number of puzzle pieces I've got left. And in the long run, more and more puzzle pieces will incrementally click together. So the next time you experience a failure, like if you made a terrible business decision or you failed the bar exam, consider that it's only happening because you're pushing against and expanding your current abilities. And if you're wondering where this fixed versus incremental theory came from, it's from Stanford University psychologist Carol Dweck and the book she wrote titled Mindset, which is definitely worth a read. This fixed and incremental theory plus the puzzle analogy is just what has helped me. Hopefully it's helpful for you as well. And with that, let's move on to everyone's favorite step, money. Have you ever wondered why the poorest people in the world always end up being the happiest? When doing research for this book and trying to find the answer, Oliver traveled to Kibera, the largest slum in Nairobi. There's no running water, no electricity, and no proper sanitation. Residents poop in plastic bags and then fling them as far away from their houses as possible, and this is what they call flying toilets. Now, what is a possible answer to that mysterious question? For the more privileged people like us, we have access to a lot of things. Lots of money, prestigious jobs, material possessions, and more. So we kid ourselves into thinking these things bring everlasting happiness. But when we actually get these things, we find that the temporary happiness fades away. Then there's always another job title or more money to chase. Then we aim for more and get trapped in this vicious cycle. However, for the less privileged, these people don't even have the opportunity to strive for any of the things we have. And because of this, they don't overinvest emotionally in it. They're not misled into thinking these material things bring more happiness than they actually do. This made for a resilience in the face of hardship and an extremely durable kind of happiness. One 22-year-old resident of Canberra, Frankie, told Oliver, "Canberra is not a good place. Major problems. But you have to manage. So you take what you have and you get on with it. And you can be happy like that because happiness comes from your family and other people and in making something better of yourself and in new horizons, right? Why worry about something you don't have? So stop kidding yourself that material things will buy you happiness. Instead, embrace the lack of material stuff. Find happiness with your loved ones and in improving yourself each and every day. Exactly like what Frankie said. The next step is perhaps the hardest to think about and yet is the one that is by far the most important. Now imagine that you've been given an all expenses paid experience to the most exclusive Michelin starred restaurant in the world, with the price point too high to imagine and a wait list booked out months in advance. You know that this is your one and only chance to enjoy it. What would you do? You'd try to get the most out of it, right? You'd make sure you slept well the night before, you'd focus on each and every flavor, you'd take as many photos and videos as you can. You would do all of this to make sure you don't regret letting this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity get away. In the end, there's nothing but happiness even after the experience has ended for us permanently. Why not treat life and death the same way? Many of us have this vague but nagging fear that at the end of our lives, we will come to regret how we spent our lives. That's why we have books like these, the top 5 regrets of the dying. When you're truly aware of the fact that life is finite, that in a few decades you'd be reduced to a pile of ashes, you're much more likely to take meaningful and truly important actions today. Like working on a business you've been dreaming about, taking that wonderful trip with your partner instead of putting them off for another year. Living more meaningfully now will reduce your anxiety about the possibility of future regret at not having lived meaningfully at the end of your life. This will, in turn, keep sapping death of its power to induce anxiety that your life wasn't meaningfully spent. This is the virtuous circle. Psychologist Russ Harris suggests a simple exercise. Imagine you are 80 years old and then complete the following sentences. I wish I'd spent more time on blank. And I wish I'd spend less time on blank. Look at this paragraph, truly look, feel it, absorb it, and do it. And that is lesson 5, thinking about death more makes you happier because of the virtuous circle. Ultimately, it is our constant effort to eliminate anything negative in our lives which causes unhappiness in the first place. So instead, we should embrace some negativity, our failures, our lack of material possessions, and even death. Truly counterintuitive, but shockingly effective. Also, I summarize every Oliver Burkeman book in this video on the screen here. I'll get it up soon, and I'll see you in that one.